In this video, I'm going to show you how to sharpen a roughing gouge. A roughing gouge is probably one of the easiest tools to sharpen. Today I'm going to demonstrate two different methods of sharpening the roughing gouge. The first one is by using a Wolverine jig. I highly recommend using a jig like this. It makes it much easier to get correct angles on your tool. The second method I'm going to do is using a platform without any type of jig to hold the tool. Here you can see I'm inserting the Wolverine sharpening jig. The tool rests in the jig with the bevel of the tool resting on the grinding wheel. Now you want to make sure you get the bevel of the tool aligned perfectly with the grinding wheel. And here's a little trick to make it a lot easier. Take your tool, get a magic marker, and make a line on the bevel of the tool. Just color it in. Now we place our tool back into the Wolverine jig with the bevel resting on the grinding wheel. Now you can take your hand and turn the wheel. If we examine our tool, you notice how the marker is removed completely from the bevel. This means that our tool was set at the proper angle. If the marker had been removed from only the top or the bottom of the bevel, we would have to adjust the angle in order to get it to cut properly. And again, we'd be able to adjust this angle by moving the Wolverine jig either in closer to the grinder or further away, depending what we wanted to do. We know that our tool's sitting on the wheel at the right angle, and we're ready to start to grind. Before we go any further, I just want to mention, whenever you use a grinder, be sure to wear safety glasses. When we sharpen a roughing gouge, we're going to be using a rolling action from side to side. You simply roll the tool over, roll it back, and forth. And here we go. We turn on our grinding wheel, let it get up to speed. Now this will take a light touch. Gently touch the tool to the wheel and spin it back and forth. And that's it. It doesn't take much more than a few light passes to end up with a great edge. As I mentioned earlier, I was going to show you a second method to sharpen the roughing gouge. This involves using a platform in case you don't have a jig like the Wolverine jig I used earlier. You would simply mark the roughing gouge with the magic marker as we did. You'd mark the bevel and we'd test it to get the right angle. Then you would set your table at the proper angle. You'd lay the tool on the rest, you turn on the wheel, and just as before, we would rotate the tool back and forth just a couple of times with a light pressure, and we'd have a sharp tool. Here's my grinder setup. On the left side, I've got an 80 grit stone wheel, which I use for rough shaping a brand new tool. On the right side, I have an 120 grit CBN wheel, which I use for putting a fine edge on a tool that's already been shaped. This is the wheel that I've used for sharpening with our two demonstrations today. You could have just as easily have used a 120 grit stone wheel to put an edge on your tool. But I find that the CBN wheels give a much finer edge, as well as they last a lot longer. The initial investment's greater, but it's much cheaper to run them in the long run. So as you saw demonstrated, it's really easy to maintain a sharp edge on a roughing gouge. I hope you found this video helpful. Thanks for watching.